Hello folks. We live in a world of narratives. The facts are not important. The truth is subjective. We are following a story that somebody made up for us sometimes decades ago, and that's what we believe in. That's what we are willing to fight for. The problem is that intelligent human beings not supposed to be a herd to follow somebody's story. We're supposed to check. We're supposed to introduce critical thinking. We're supposed to follow something that at least we know what we are supporting. Unfortunately, a narrative is contradicting all of the above. Maybe the most important narrative over the last few decades in the world is the Israeli-Palestinian story. And here's the narrative. Once upon a time, in a land called Palestine, people used to live. They lived in small towns and small villages, peaceful people, farmers. They had a social way of life. They were connected on many levels. It was some kind of a nation. These are the indigenous people of the land. And suddenly, out of the blue, foreigners came. Strangers who are not connected, sent by the imperialist, colonialist powers of Europe in order to steal the land, to rob the land, to build the Jewish state. That's the narrative. Well, I am old school. I am really old-fashioned. I prefer to follow the facts and not a narrative. In the next 3 episodes, I'll try to prove to you, by using facts, who are the Palestinians and who are the indigenous people to the land of Palestine/Israel, and will do that by focusing on the facts and not by following a narrative which by definition is not concerning the facts and it's not based on the truth. Fact number 1 is the unbreakable linkage between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. Long before the Muslim world was born, long before Islam was even created, the land of Israel was the national home of the Jewish people. That's where the Jews built kingdoms, and that's where we had our temple and kings and prophets and our elders and a very rich communal, cultural, religious life. There's no question whatsoever about the tight connection of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, speaking about who are the indigenous nation to this land. After the dispersion started as a result of the conquest of the temple at AD 70 and destruction of Jerusalem, Jews were scattered around the world, but not for a single minute they forgot Jerusalem. 3 times a day, every Jewish man prays, next year in Jerusalem. The yearning and the longing to go back to Zion is typifying the Jewish way of life. So to say the Jews are not connected to the land of Israel will be an absurd, let alone stupidity. Even for those that say that the Bible is just a bunch of stories and a fairy tale. Let me make it clear, the Bible is the Word of God, period. But even for those who challenge that, then we have so many sources about the land and the people, coming from Egypt, and Assyria, and Babylon, and Persia, and Greece, and Rome. And think about archaeology. Every place you stick a shovel in this country, the earth opens its mouth and reveals the true story of the land. Ancient coins minted by our ancestors, ancient manuscripts like the Dead Sea Scrolls. There was no question whatsoever who lived in this country and who are the indigenous people of this land. So fact number 1, try to challenge the connection of the Jewish people and the land of Israel. See what kind of facts you can bring to the table. Fact number 2. During the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire changed its policy vis-a-vis Palestine. They were willing to let a lot of Christians to come and visit the country, hoping that these people will bring money with them. There were some other reasons for that openness, but the end result was the same. Thousands of people came to visit. They came as pilgrims, they came as explorers, they came as diplomats, they came as just visitors to see the country and the land of the Bible. 3,000 of them wrote books and journals and diaries about their journey. They all tell the same story. Palestine was a devastated land. The valleys and the coasts were covered by swamps and marshes, full of malaria. Very few people lived in the land. You could walk miles and miles without seeing a living soul. They all tell the same story. They speak about small villages, that every village was a tribe, a clan, minding its own business without any connection to the next village. In fact, we speak about bitter enemies fighting for grazing grounds and land. They don't speak about a nation. They don't speak about any kind of social solidarity. The one thing that was in common to everybody was they spoke Arabic most likely. They were not even from the same religion, Christians and Muslims as well. So 3,000 people tell the same story about Palestine, a land that was very scarcely populated. People did not speak in national terms. If they called themselves anything, that would be Syria. The term Palestine wasn't even used. It wasn't very clear politically. It wasn't very clear geographically. So to speak about the indigenous people of the land, well, these were just very few people who lived in shameful conditions all around the area, in small, impoverished villages and towns that had nothing with each other, no solidarity, no sense of community, absolutely nothing. Well, fact number 3. Over the last 200 years of the Ottoman Empire's presence in Palestine, the 18th and the 19th century, the population wasn't growing. That's not normal. Unless there is a plague or maybe multiple wars, population should grow. Not in Palestine. And the question is, why not? Well, part of the answer is the corrupted system in the Ottoman Empire, exploiting the local Arab bankers and landlords, and through them exploiting the farmers to such a position they could not hold on to their land. And therefore, if a landlord wants to make some profit of the land that he purchased from the authorities, he will lease it to a farmer. The farmer has to borrow money from the landlord to buy some seeds, and if the crops are not that great, he cannot pay his debt. He will pack up his family and will leave. And therefore we do have the evidences which are provided by research institutions around the world checking that situation based on Ottoman documents. Very few people could hold on to the land for few seasons. The population was coming and going constantly. Because if you cannot pay your debts and you don't want to be arrested, you wake up at midnight, you take your family and you literally run for your life and you try to succeed in some other place. So to speak about a permanent, steady indigenous population in Palestine, that was not the case. We need to understand that. On top of that, we speak about nomads that came in for a season, in most cases attacking the villages and trying to rob the crops because the Ottomans did not provide any protection to these farmers. And if everything you lost, or you lost everything, you don't stay. You're leaving the area. So to speak about families that live on their land for decades or centuries, to make the indigenous people, that was not the case in Palestine. The population will start growing because of a very surprising factor. The Jews are going to arrive, bring money with them, creating opportunities, and that will start changing the demographics in Palestine. So once again, you try to find this nation that lived in Palestine. You try to find those indigenous people that lived happily in the land of Palestine. You won't find them because of one reason: they never really existed. Fact number 4, and the last one for this episode. In 1893, the Ottoman Empire conducted a population census in Palestine. That was maybe the most reliable one they ever did. And after counting the people who lived in the land, including some tribes of nomads that simply happened to be there for the season, the number was 140,000 people. 25% of these people were Jews who lived in the bigger towns and cities. That's it, 140,000 people. And these people lived in small villages, as we said a couple of times, and were not connected on any level. So who are these indigenous people that the world thinks about or speaks about when you follow this narrative of the Palestinian people that lived peacefully on their land, which was beautiful and was serene in the lush land of Palestine? That's absolute nonsense. When the Jewish pioneers will start coming, they did not go to a foreign land. They did not come as conquerors, they came back home. Why would anybody even come to Palestine when you have choices to go to much nicer places? Why would people leave the comfort of their lives anywhere in Europe to go to start all over again as a nation in a country that had nothing to offer? So Palestine was not a magnet to attract anybody. And the people that did come did not come to a foreign land. They came back home. Next episode, we'll speak about the changes in the 19th century that led to the foundation of the Jewish national movement, land that was purchased, and the change in demographics as a result of Jewish money pouring in, creating job opportunities for foreigners to come and take. That was the beginning of the turning point in the beginning of the 20th century.